Greetings, friends. This video is on my experiences going to a Kingdom Hall and having a few Bible studies. And I was compelled to do this, to go to the Kingdom Hall, because I was shunned by a lifelong friend late last year. And I thought maybe this would bring some kind of closure, me confronting the issue sort of head on by having a Bible study. And so that's why I wound up doing it. And it happened that a few witnesses were roaming my town, and it was before the memorial celebration, and they had invites. And so I thought, okay, this is a great way for me to do what I thought I was going to do. So I ended up going to the Kingdom Hall for the memorial celebration, and I was met there by somebody that turns out is a friend of one of my friends, and they play contract bridge together. And she offered to meet me there because my friend had said that I was planning on going, and she was very gracious and nice, and we met at the Kingdom Hall. And I'm thinking, wow, that's interesting that she plays contract bridge and she's a Jehovah's Witness. Is that an allowable thing? So we go to the Kingdom Hall, we go inside, and it's a very small congregation, maybe about 32 to 35 people there, a few kids, and people attired, the guys in their shirts and ties, and females very modestly dressed. And I noticed that lots of people were looking at me, like I'm the new kid on the block, maybe potential convert. And I wasn't surprised by this. I didn't particularly feel uncomfortable. I was kind of thinking to myself, wow, am I really here? Like, what am I doing? So the meeting starts, and I was really sensitive to the fact that I was going to hear lots of Jehovah's Witness or Watchtower Society buzzwords and phrases and talking about the organization and spiritual food and Matthew 24:45 through 47. And indeed, that's what I got. I heard organization, I don't know how many times. And so this went on for what seemed like quite some time, even though the meeting was only like 45 minutes in total. So after about 20 minutes or so, I just kind of went on pause. I just entered pause mode, like, and then jolted every now and then when we had to get up and sing songs, and I gladly let my new friend take the lead on that. And let's see, what else? I have some notes here that I'm reading from so I don't get mixed up. So after the meeting finished, I had several people come up to me and talk about how wonderful the congregation was and how being in the organization completely changed their lives and that sort of thing. And this older gentleman came up to me, and I said that I had been doing study and research on the Watchtower online, had read some of their publications, and could I set up a Bible study? And he was very, very surprised that I took the initiative to get a Bible study. And he even said to me, he says, wow, we never get that. I guess meaning in the congregation, somebody knew right away asking for a Bible study. So I arranged to have a Bible study with this gentleman whose name was Jay, not his real name, but from here on, I'll just call him husband. So when I informed some of my friends that I was doing this, having the Bible studies, many of them just laughed and said, what the hell are you doing? And one of my best friends said to me, Max, this is one of the stupidest things you have ever done. So I did just what I'm doing now. I just laughed, and I said, well, your opinion is duly noted. So I went ahead with it anyway, just something I really had to do. So I was determined to go into this stressing Matthew 24:45 through 47, because I know that's where the Watchtower gets all of its authority and illicit power from. So that was my object. Matthew, those scriptures, and also Proverbs 4:18. In the end, did I make any headway? I think I did, because I think I understand how Jehovah's Witnesses make sense of that or arrive at the conclusion that they are the faithful and discreet slave. I think I understand their reasoning. I believe. So I was surprised. The first meeting, it was just him, the husband, that came. I was expecting that maybe it would be, the two of them. I thought this was usually a two-person deal when they're trying to get people to come into the truth. So I started pressing him on the Matthew scriptures early on, and as I expected, I got complete runaround on the topic. They offered answers, but in the end, I think I understand where they're coming from, but maybe not totally. But interestingly, at the end of the first meeting, which regrettably I do not have a copy of, I made recordings of all these meetings, and for some reason I don't have the first meeting. But at the very end, he said, well, I'm going to bring my wife for the next meeting. She's much more knowledgeable than I am. So maybe it's to my credit. Maybe I asked him some questions that threw him and he needed some backup. I don't know. But they usually do the Bible studies in pairs. I'm not sure, is this usual or not? But anyways, an aside, these people are very, very nice, charming people. They're both in their mid to late 60s. He's a Vietnam vet. And they're very charming and lovely, lovely people. People that I would think, wow, they probably make good friends. But then I thought, wow. I was disappointed because I know that in the Watchtower organization, friendship is really, really conditional. I mean, at any minute, they can just like chop, chop, chop you right out of their lives. So I immediately was thinking about that. And I said, man, what a shame that is. So when the husband and wife came for the second study, again, my object was to press the Matthew 24 scriptures, but I had actually read an article from, I think it's Watchtower, May 1989. I may have the date wrong, but I was really compelled to ask them about this at the beginning. And I quoted this article, which states, a mature Christian does not advocate or insist on personal opinion or harbor private ideas when it comes to private understanding. Rather, he has complete confidence in the truth as it is revealed by God's only Son and the faithful and discreet slave. So I said to them, this is a huge issue for me. And then the husband says, we have to start with Matthew 24. There's a question in that scripture, and he turns it around, and what does this mean to you? And I asked him, like, meaning who was the faithful and discreet slave? So that was the way we turned that around into getting into the Matthew 24, 45 through 47. And at first, when I brought this up, I had some questions on the validity of the faithful and discreet slave as self-proclaimed by the Watchtower Society, and it was completely ignored. The wife at that point chimes in, and she hands me this Watchtower article that it's a series on what it means to be a Christian, and then she states, well, it really doesn't talk about the faithful and discreet slave in this one. So I'm thinking, well, okay, if it's not talking about the faithful and discreet slave, then why are you bringing it up? So I took the article, and I read it, and I made lots of notations on it. We never really got to talk about that. We might have. I have to review my videos. And then they brought up other things that, like an evasive kind of tact. They asked me if I had any Bible studies years ago, and I told her about this incident I had with a coworker in the early 80s, and so we got completely off the track. And then I brought up the 1975 fiasco, at which point the wife chimes in and says, well, the Watchtower never said that it was going to happen in 1975. And I'm thinking, wow. You know, I brought up all of the articles that led up to it. You know, like people being told to sell their homes and to not get married, not have children, if they had kids, to not further their education, and all those things. And it didn't make any difference. There were some explanations that she gave which completely were inadequate. I don't recall what they were, but it was basically evasive. And you can see me fidgeting around in the video. I mean, I watched this a few nights ago. I transcribed some of it for what I'm talking about now. And you can see me, like, in the video, I just, like, really being fidgety and kind of like rolling my eyes. And I'm thinking, well, I'm pretty obvious here. So it's kind of funny looking at it after the fact of how truly frustrated I was getting. I just wanted to clunk their heads together. And it was just really, really frustrating at times. It's a lot of evasive tactics. And then I reiterated the 1989 article, and I said, wow, the organization is claiming the Bible for themselves and not for individuals, seems to me. And again, I said, I find this highly disturbing. Then the husband goes into this song and dance about the Ethiopian eunuch and trying to make a connection with the disciples' arrangement with the current Watchtower arrangement. I'm not sure I understood what he was talking about, but anyway, that's kind of an example that of this type of discussions that basically went on for the next 3 sessions. And I kept trying to stress the Matthew 24 scriptures and the Watchtower's misapplication of them in Proverbs 4:18, and bringing up endless examples of the Watchtower's vacillating ideas and new light going back to old light, going back to new light, and all this. It just absolutely made totally no sense at all, and it didn't have any impact on them whatsoever. Let's see what else. Oh, one thing that happened that was really pretty funny. We were having a discussion about, I was saying how I felt that the governing body and the organization was afforded too much praise, and almost like they were being revered as much as Jehovah, and the fact that people are not supposed to harbor any kind of personal opinion unless they be in danger of being disfellowshipped. And at some point, like right in that conversation, the husband starts to say, well, in my opinion, and right away I started laughing because he was going to say the word opinion. And I said to him, I said, well, that's okay. You can say opinion. I won't tell anybody. So I thought that was just completely, totally made my point. If for nothing else, these whole 4 sessions, that just really clinched it for me. That was one of the defining moments, like cult mentality coming right out before my very eyes. Completely amazing. So that was pretty decent. So anyhow, these meetings ended with me, especially this one meeting where we're talking about excessive devotion to the organization and how I thought that was not a good thing. He hands me this charming article from 1962 called "We Need Jehovah's Organization." So I took the article, and it's like 4 pages long, and it says the word organization like 60 some times. I made lots of notes on it, and I also got What Does the Bible Really Teach book, numerous Watchtower articles, and the Faith in Action DVD, which I watched in its entirety and made many notes on. I mean, it's pure propaganda. Unbelievable. Made many notes, asked them to read the notes, and basically nothing happened. They didn't really address my issues. Then they handed me this 14-page article called Outstanding, well, it was an article, it was just this list of outstanding prophecies concerning Jesus and their fulfillment. And so, this kind of circuitous stuff went on it was typical for the meetings up until the end of the 4th meeting. And by then I had it. I had it up to my neck. So the Tuesday before the meeting, I called and got the wife on the phone. And I told her that, my good conscience, I could not continue with the meetings, partly because I was feeling guilty, because I was under false pretenses. But I said, I just can't, in good conscience, go any further, because all the evidence points to the fact that the governing body is not the faithful and discreet slave. There's just too much evidence that refutes that, that claim. And she was generally disappointed to hear this news. And she said, well, is this something that we did? And I said, no. I assured her that, it wasn't. And that they had done an adequate job of explaining some of their views and how they arrive at them, although much of it was not adequate. But I did come away understanding a little bit better how they arrive at certain things. And she said, well, is it okay if we maybe come back in a few weeks to check in? And I said, well, I'm going away for 8 weeks, which I did. And I haven't heard from them, but I fully expect that they will come back at some point and check in on me and see if maybe I've changed my views. Not likely, but I would gladly entertain them coming back one more time, and then I'm really going to do the hardball thing. I actually wrote them a note. It's like a 4-page note on all the reasons why based on our discussions and a few other things, why I don't feel that the Watchtower is anywhere near being in the truth. So, maybe I'll go to the Kingdom Hall and deliver the note to the Kingdom Hall. That's an idea. So, in the end, I was actually really surprised at these two. They really let me control the conversation. They didn't go according to a script and the what does the Bible really teach book. It wasn't that what I was kind of expecting them to get me to read certain things and then ask questions, and that thing happened very little. It did happen to a point, but I must say they were very flexible as far as letting me bring up topics. They didn't stick with the topic. They kept going off on side things, which I think if I had to do it over again, there are many things that I would do different if I ever decided to do this again, which I probably won't. But it's like after, like, well, I should have said this, should have said that. And, I'd like to look at my videos again just to, recall certain instances. Many things I've left out. I could talk about this for hours. It was fascinating. It really was. It was completely fascinating. Did I get closure from the shunning thing by doing this? No, I don't think so. But I did gain further understanding with the I think, Jehovah Witness crowd, and just encompassing or experiencing the cult-like surroundings of the organizational, teachings. Just getting more of an appreciation for that cult-like atmosphere. And I feel like maybe this will perhaps help in my personal efforts to combat this insidious, vile, immoral cult. So, in an end note, D, you can stop doing your potty dance. So, anyway, that's it. That's my experience. And again, my kudos to the ex-Jehovah Witness crowd out there who's fighting the fight. And maybe in our lifetimes we'll be fortunate enough to see the downfall of this just wretched organization. So, anyway, cheers, everybody. See ya.